Hi guys. So today we're going to get started with the TORCHMATE CAD software. So I'm going to walk you through and give you just kind of an introduction to it. Let you get started. We're going to make a simple drawing and save that to our P drive, which will be also part of this tutorial is understanding the drives and navigating. Okay. So the first thing is to get TORCHMATE launched. I already have this one up, but if you don't, it's just over here. This white icon says TM. We'll just open that guy up, and that should launch TORCHMATE for us. Now, a couple of things in here. First thing you'll notice, I'm going to maximize screen space here. So first thing you'll notice is this rectangle right here. Now that rectangle is the material size. So it's the piece of material that you're cutting. And if you look up here, we have a ruler. We have a horizontal and vertical ruler. So this is 0. This would be our X direction. If we're going back to our math class, we're going to use Cartesian coordinates for this whole thing. So X and Y, right? So this is going to be our X dimension up to 48. And of course, this way would be going negative. If we go to 0 down here, this would be 48 going up this way. So that's our origin right there. That's 0.00. And as we go across the screen, this way would be 48, and this way would be 48. Now, yours might look a little different than this right now, depending on how the software is set up, but your material size might be a little different, and you might not have this grid. I have this 1-inch grid spacing on here right now. It looks like graph paper, so that I can kind of just keep an eye on how big things are. If you want to turn the grid on or off, that's right up here under View. And you can scroll down to Show Grid. See, I have the check mark on, which means it's showing. If I uncheck it, you'll see that I no longer have the grid. So if you'd like to keep that on or off, you can just do that right there, Show Grid. I like to keep it on. It's set to 1 inch, just kind of helps me make sure that things are the size I'm intending them to be. The other thing is we might not have the same size material. Your material might actually be set up. Our table, our TORCHMATE table is actually 4 feet by 8 feet. So this is 48 by 48. That'd be a 4 foot by 4 foot table. Ours is 48 by 96. It's 8 feet. So that might be, it'd be under layout up here in these tabs, layout, and down here material size. And you can adjust it. If you had a small piece of material you wanted to lay out, you can come in here and change any of this. So like, for example, I could change this height right here to 96. This would actually be the size of our table. I'll click OK. And now I have this large 96-inch table by 48. So for what we're doing right now, it doesn't really matter because we're just going to draw a small part and we're just kind of learning the layout. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take that and put that back to 48 by 48. I'm going to ask you guys to do the same thing. So just make it 48 by 48. So again, that material size is under layout and material size. Okay. So once you have 48 by 48, and if you've got your grid turned on, we're ready to start to draw a part. Okay. Now, along the left side here are our tools, and we're going to go over these tools in detail as we continue through some of these tutorials. They do different things. We have text tools and weld tools and shape tools. We're going to learn just about a couple of them today. So let's start with the shape tool. If we click on it, you'll see it flies out a couple different options for us here. So let's start with a circle, and let's create a circle. We'll come over here, and so if you click and drag, I'm holding the cursor down. It allows me to change the size of this, but it's not super critical what size it is right now because we're going to edit it after the fact. If you look up here, you can see that radius is changing. It also is giving me an X and a Y location, and the highlighted red dot is the center. So this is showing me where the center of my circle would be, as well as the radius. Remember, the radius is from the center to the edge, so it's half the diameter. The diameter is all the way across. So right now, if I just kind of drag and pull this around, I'm just going to do a random size right now. Let's click there. Okay. Now it's selected, so it has this little dot on it, and I can come up here and edit some of this stuff. But what I'm going to do to just end this command is just click. You see, I have the little circle next to my cursor. If my arrow has that little circle, that means if I was to click again, I'd draw another circle. So if I just click one click, fast click, that ends the command. And now I have this circle right here. Okay, so, excuse me. So if we look at this circle, there's a lot of information now that we have available to us based on what we just created up here in this menu, or in this ribbon. So first things first, let's take a look at these two. So this is the object width, and this is the object height. So those are the size. Now, because it's a circle, it would make perfect sense that those would be the same, right? Now, if I wanted to change it, let's say we want this circle to be 2 inches, and this is what I'll have you guys make this circle 2 inches. I can just click in there and type in 2.0, enter. I don't really even need the 0.0. I think I can just type 2, enter, and it'll do that for me. But you saw that circle shrunk, and it shrunk. They both shrunk. It shrunk in uniform fashion. Now, it's possible that yours may not, because we have this little lock button right here. This is a proportional scaling button. So it's possible that yours would have shrunk only one way or the other, right? I changed the width, so let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to draw another circle. So get that tool again and just draw one here. Okay. So then again, click out of that to end that command. So now if this is unlocked, it's proportional scaling right here. If I have that unlocked and I change this to 2, you can probably guess what's going to happen. Yeah, it changed the width, but it didn't change the object height because I allowed them to unproportionally scale. Well, for us, for right now, that's not what we're trying to do. We're going to draw a happy face. That's our goal today. In fact, we are going to draw a happy face that has some dimensions. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I'm going to minimize, actually, yeah, let's minimize AutoCAD. No, sorry. Let's do this first. I apologize. Also, this isn't AutoCAD. This is TORCHMATE. My bad. I'm sorry. You can tell that I make other tutorials. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this. You guys currently, right now, have a 2-inch diameter circle. If you don't, create one. Pause the video, create one. Come back here. I'm going to show you how we're going to save this. Okay? So what we're going to do is go up there, File, Save. Now, this is not a cloud-based program, so this is not like any of the apps that you use, like Google Docs or Google Sheets or any of those apps where they're just constantly updating. If you don't push this save button, your work is not being saved. And that is a really critical idea that you guys really got to understand, because I've had students in the past that created really nice drawings, spend a bunch of time on designing some parts, and they just lose them because you have to save. If you don't push save, you're losing your work. Now, it's also very, very critical that we save to the correct location, because the school computers, there is only one place to save that is your drive that you own. There are several that have your name, that are titled after your name, but there is one that you actually own that the district will not delete or wipe clean every couple weeks or manipulate the files that are in it. It's one drive. It's your P drive, your personal drive. P stands for personal. So what we're going to do is hit save right here. And when this menu pops up, yours is going to look different. My guess is yours is probably going to be in this documents folder, like right here. That's my guess. But it'll be where it is. It's going to default to somewhere. Okay. This is not the correct location to save. What you have to do is drop this menu down and scroll through all of these until you see one that says P in little parentheses there. That is your personal drive. Now, if you don't see that, it might be just hiding. It might be in this PC. This is where you'll find it. If you don't see it, you can always click this PC, and then it should pop up. Now, you'll have less drives than I have. I have a whole bunch of different drives here, but you're looking for this one that's your net. It's probably going to be your username. So the same thing you log into a school computer with, it'll be your username, and it'll have a P followed after it, okay? Now look, I have another drive up here that says Timothy Fay, but that's not the right location. Any of these other spots are going to get deleted by the district, so it's really critical you find your P drive, okay? Now, I have tons of folders created in mine. You may or may not, depending on how much you've used your P drive in the past, all right? But what I'm going to ask you to do is create a new folder that's just for this class, specifically for this class. So we're going to do that by clicking this little icon right here. This is create a new folder. As soon as I do that, I get a new folder up here, and it's titled like so. And I'd like you guys to title this one Weld Welding Tech. Go lowercase there. Okay. I want you guys to all have this folder because I am going to grade these drawings and I want to come find them in this folder. So now, if I click that, I'm not in that folder because I'm still saving in my P drive just generally right now. So to get in that folder, I want to double click it. Now you notice when I double click it, it's empty. That makes sense because we haven't saved anything in here yet. We are going to title this one number 1. We're going to keep these in order by putting the number in them first every time, and then I'm going to go dash. And then the titling structure that I like you guys to use is your initials or your last name. Either way, it's somehow a signifier that it's yours. So I'm going to go Faye, and then the name of the drawing. I'll put a dash, and it's a happy face. Happy face. Okay, so 1 Faye happy face. Yours would be 1 Smith happy face, or 1 whatever. Okay, put your last name there. And then they can double check and making sure I'm in saving and welding tech, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, so now you'll see that the name up here changed. If this still says untitled or does not have your new name that you just created this, and this is part of the reason that I like you guys to use your last name or your initials, because that way you'll know, but also I'll know when I open it whose I'm looking at. I can just look up at the name and know exactly whose file I'm in, because I'm going to have 70 of these things at a time. We start cutting out all these parts you guys are designing. So, okay, so then we'll close this, or actually no, excuse me, I don't want to close it. I'm just going to minimize it to go back to the desktop here, and so that is how we get it saved to our P drive. Now I'm going to show you another location where I'll put files for you. So I'm going to go to this PC, and I'll probably post most of this stuff on Google Classroom as well, but you can always find files in our shared drive. All right, so if we double click in here, you'll find some files in here. Now you won't have this file. Yours will actually just see, you guys just default automatically to this SLHS. So yours will look like this. Where you're looking for is industrial technology, okay? And in here, I haven't actually added your file yet for welding tech. I'm still kind of using this metal 2 folder. So I will update this for you, but we'll add you a welding tech folder in here that you'll click in, and you'll be able to have access to these TORCHMATE tutorials. Okay, so I'll move these for you into that folder titled welding tech as well. So, and then you see here's the PDF for the happy face. So this is the dimensions that I want to use to create this happy face that we're going to make. So guess what? We just drew this eyeball right here, 2 inches, and we drew one of them. Okay, we need to draw another one. We need to get it 3 inches apart. So let's go work on that. Okay, so if I minimize this, I can go back here to TORCHMATE, and a couple things. To scroll in and out, to zoom in and out, this program is going to be so much easier for you if you have an actual mouse, because this scroll wheel on the mouse allows me to zoom in and out really easily. I can do it from right here, this little magnifying glass. You have zoom in, zoom out. This is a good one to know, zoom selected object, so that's going to zoom in on my circle. But sometimes I have multiple objects, I want to see them all. This is another good one to know. This is zoom material, which the zoom material is that rectangle that we had earlier, right? The 48 by 48. So you can always do it from here, but it's just a lot easier to use the scroll button on the mouse. The way that works is you just point it where you want to zoom, and you just roll the wheel. So if I want to zoom in over here on the circle, I just put it on the circle and zoom there. If I have a bunch of geometry in this page, so maybe like up in this corner, I want to zoom in there. If I put the cursor there, it zooms in on that corner. Okay. And then if I push the scroll button down, so don't roll it, but actually push down on it, it gives me the pan that allows me to drag and move the drawing around. You don't really have that option with the mouse pad on a Chromebook or a laptop or something. Sometimes the 2 fingers will work for a scroll, or sometimes you have different, depending on how you have your mouse pad set up, you can navigate with it. But I think it's just a lot easier to use a mouse. If you need a mouse, let me know. I can check one out to you. Okay, so here's my first 2-inch diameter circle. We'll verify right here that it is 2. Okay. If I want to create another one, I could go through all those steps again to create another one, but there's a way to duplicate it, and that's up over here under Edit, and it's right here, Duplicate. And anytime you see a command and then you have a little nomenclature over here that says Control plus D, that's a hotkey. So I can do this from the keyboard quickly to be able to get that to work. So Control D would duplicate this command, or I can just go up here and click on this and it duplicates it, right? So like again, so this time instead of going over there, I'm just going to hold Control and I'm going to push D on the keyboard, and there it created another one for me. Okay. For now, I'm going to delete that, get rid of that guy. Okay, so now I have 2, right? But I need to organize them so that they are the correct size and in the correct location. And you notice that when I click on one, it selects one and it doesn't select the other. But when it selects it, it gets these 9 boxes, right? 3 on the top, 3 in the middle, 3 on the bottom. And what those are what we call nubs. If I look up here, you'll see that the current nub is the red one in the middle. That's the one that's selected. So that tells me where the X and Y position are. So let me show you. If I put this at 0, 0, so if I put the X at 0, it should jump over to that horizontal line. And if I put the Y at 0, it should jump down to the origin. So now the center nub is at 0, 0, right? But if I don't want it actually sticking out here into the negative space, what I could do instead is grab this bottom left nub and put that at 0, 0. Oops, I missed it. Oh, let's see. Zoom material here. What did I do there? Yeah, it didn't get the change there. So 0, enter. Okay, there we go. So now if I zoom in there, so now this bottom left corner is at 0, 0. Okay. Go ahead and do that now. And if you need to pause the video and do that with your CAD. Get this positioned at that location. Okay. Okay, now we should be able to figure out our distance for our happy face. They need to be 3 inches apart, center to center. So what'll work here, I think, is if I grab this one and I have this same bottom node selected. So this time I still want the Y, the up and down vertical, to be 0, but I want the X to be 3 inches different. And that looks about right. Okay, so this one, and the bottom left corner of that one is at 0. And if I do this one, the bottom left corner is at 3, which means that they are 3 inches apart. Now, in the drawing, gives us 3 inches from center to center, but it should be the same. And we can check it if we want. We could grab the middle node here, or nub, excuse me, not a node. But so that one is at 4. This one should be at 1, and it is. So there's 3 inches difference between them. Okay. So now that I have those directly lined up, I want to be able to select those as a pair. I want to make them a path that I'm going to use all the time, and that they become their own, what we call a path. I'm going to do that by selecting these and then going up here to Arrange and Make Path. Now you'll see when I do that, and now if I click on one of those, those numbers no longer exist. This is now it's now giving me the center nub is at 2.5. That's because it's right here, right? It's at 2.5 right there. So if I move these around, then they move as a pair, as a path. Okay, and that's good. That's what I want. And I can move them around wherever I want. I can always put them back by typing in a dimension there. Okay. Okay, let's check out. So that's the eyeballs. We got the eyeballs. We're in good shape there. Let's check out and let's draw this mouth right here. Okay, this is going to be a little bit trickier because now we have to get half of the circle. The radius is 2.5, which means that the diameter would be 5, right? Twice the radius. So let's go ahead and draw that guy. So if I jump back here into the TORCHMATE, and I'll come over here to the shape tools again, grab the circle. I'm just going to drag. I'm going to click off of there, and then I'm going to set this to the width here to 5. And, oh, I didn't like that. That's actually not what I wanted to do. I forgot my scaling was off. So I could either undo that and lock the scale, or I could just also set that one to 5. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and lock the scaling so I don't accidentally do that again. Now, problem with this one is that it's not the actual shape that I want. So there's a few different ways that I can go about deleting the top half of this part. Okay. One of the ways I'm going to do that is with a weld tool. So these are the weld tools right here, and you can see that they have some. Well, this will make more sense when they're not gray here. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's draw a rectangle, and so I'm just going to use the tools. I'm going to draw a rectangle here, and I'm just going to draw a random size rectangle. Okay. Now, I want this to be centered halfway right there. I don't really care where it is right and left. I just want it to be halfway. So what I'm going to do is move this guy down to the bottom. So I'm going to grab it at this bottom nub here and change the Y to 0. That'll put it all the way on this bottom edge. Okay. And now if I grab this one and I put its bottom node, it shows it's already selected, bottom node there. If I put that, I want to go half that distance up so it intersects at exactly the halfway point, which is 2.5 inches. Okay, now this line is exactly half of that circle, right? They're there. So I want to drag this sideways, but if I click on it and drag it, it's actually going to move it up and down. So what I can do if I don't want to move it up and down is I can use the arrow keys on my keypad, and I can just hold down the right arrow until this one fully intersects this one over here. I want it fully intersected like that. Okay, I'll zoom in there a little bit and see that. Now, I should have mentioned this earlier, but if your objects, when you draw them, are not black like this, that's because right now I have under view, I have what's called the show fill turned on. If you want to turn the show fill off, you just uncheck that box and it looks like this. And this might be what yours look like. They might not be filled in. I probably should have mentioned that earlier in the video. I apologize if you've been watching this and you're like, mine doesn't look like that. Well, that's all you got to do to turn it back on. Show fill. The hotkey is Alt-S, and I use that one a lot. Alt-S to turn them off, Alt-S to turn them on. Because like right now, I can't really see the geometry that well because they're overlapping, but they are individual items. I can pick on one or the other. Okay. Now, to get these guys edited, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box. And to draw the box, I don't click. I got to click and hold and draw a box around the entire thing. It's got to be completely inside there. And I click. And when I do that, I can now grab this weld tool. And I have different options of weld tools. Now, we'll go over all these later. But if I did this one, it would join. Well, let's just do it real quick. If I did this one, it would join the two. And it would look like that. Okay. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go up to Edit, Undo. If I click this weld tool, this is the basic weld. Welds things together, creates two things into one. This one, the and weld, leaves what's left. Well, that's close to what I want, but it's upside down. I could work with that. I could use that and rotate it 180 degrees and utilize that. But in this case, that's not really what I wanted. So let me undo that. And this last one is an XOR weld, and what it does, I'll click it, and you'll see it doesn't look like it changed anything, except that now when I click on an object, you can see the highlighted parts. That's its own object, and this is its own object. So it basically welded, it kind of broke them and created two separate objects, which this is the part that I want. So you could utilize the same exact functions and tools that we just did if you wanted to make something like this, right? So this part right here, I'm going to delete it. And it's going to say you're going to lose some history. I'm going to say that's okay. I don't need that piece of geometry. All right, now let's zoom back out. And you can see, let's turn our show fill back on. I'm going to hit Alt-S. And now I'm ready to get this guy lined up where it goes to the next part. But before I do anything else, save. Because I've just done a few commands that took a little bit of time and I don't want to lose that information. So I just go up to File, Save. Good idea to get in the habit of doing that every 15 or 20 minutes or so. Okay, so now we have the mouth created. Okay, so we're gonna get the rest of the shapes and position these properly to do the rest of this object. So I think probably the next part that would be the smartest would be to add the big circle here. So in this case, it's an 8-inch diameter. So let's go ahead and draw that guy, and then we'll get it positioned where we want. We'll kind of work off of there. Okay. So minimize this back here. I'm going to scroll out just a little bit so I have some room over here to draw this one. Again, get my shape tools, grab the circle, drag this guy here, click off of that one, and let's make sure our proportional scaling is locked this time. Make this guy 8. So that's going to be my 8-inch diameter. Now, it's probably, if I take this one and I drag it over here, over those eyeballs, you see it's going to hide those eyeballs. So at this point, it's probably best to turn off the show fill. So we'll get that guy turned off. And then what I'm going to do is actually just put this, I want this bottom corner to be at my origin, because then every measurement on this circle is going to be based off X and Y 0, 0. So let's do that. If I type in 0, 0 right now, I'm using the center nub. That's the current one. So I want to switch to this one by clicking on it. Let's see how that one turned red. Okay, and then we'll change this to 0, enter, and we'll make this one 0, enter. Okay. All right. So now, if we look back at our smiley face, you can see that we want to go up 1 3/4 of an inch and centered for these eyes. These eyes are already 3 inches apart. We took care of that already. So now we got to get this placement here. So let's go and switch back to here. And if we grab this one, and if we just grab the center nub now, we have our measurement. We know that it's 4 inches. That makes sense because it's an 8-inch diameter. So that means that the center of this one should be on the Y, should be 4 plus 1.75 would be 5.75. Right? And I just got that value from taking this 4, which is the center, plus this 1.75, 1 3/4, and that locates that one. Now, right to left, it should just also be 4 because I'm centering both of those. So let's go back to here. So the X, right to left, should be 4. All right. That looks pretty good. Okay. Now, before we do the mouth, I'm going to show you, we could actually wait until we get the mouth in there, but I want to show you right now. If we take the show fill, this is the big circle's there, but so are the eyeballs if we draw a box around all of it. So the way that we tell it that those eyeballs are supposed to be part of this circle is the same way we did when we joined the 2 eyeballs together. We're going to select multiple objects and grab all of this stuff here, and we'll go back to machine, and we'll say, look, we want to make this a path. I'm sorry, a range, not machine. We want to make that a path. We want to treat all of that as one thing. And when we click this, the machine now knows, or the software now knows that, oh, those circles are part of this greater circle. And since only one piece of metal can exist at a time, it knows that those eyes are supposed to be cut out just like so. Okay, so again, that was a range, make path. And you have to have them selected in order to select that make path. So now when I click on this, all that geometry, it's all part of that same thing. Okay, let's turn off the show fill and let's take care of the mouth. I did notice on the plan that the mouth, unfortunately, I left off this dimension, but it's just a 1/2 inch. So a 1/2 inch below the center is where that one should go. So what we're going to do there is I want to grab this location right here. So that would be the top center nub. And I'm going to make the X 4. That centers it right to left because everything everything should be on a 4 inch there, right? And then for the Y, we know that if we put it at 4, that's going to be right at the center line. So we want to subtract half an inch from that to make it 3.5, and that'll be there. And it looks pretty good. Let's do the show fill, and let's highlight all that. Let's make it a path. Arrange, make path, and there it is. Smiley face emoji. And at this point, if we click on it, you'll see now it's all one object and gives me the locations and the size. And if I wanted to move it around, I can move it wherever I wanted to position it. If I wanted to, I could do a duplicate, Control D, and I could drag this one over here. And with my proportional scaling on, I could change the size. If I decided I wanted to make it 12 inches instead of 10 or 8, I can do that, and everything will scale properly and appropriately. Okay, so you can see there's some pretty neat tools in here. If at any point in this tutorial you get super confused, just let me know, and I'm happy to help you and try to do whatever we can. Oh, by the way, we're not done yet, right? We have that last step that we need to do. As long as this says correct location up here, this is one happy face, we can just hit save. However, if we're not positive we're saving to the right location, it's always a good idea just to double check. Hit the Save As button, and it will save it as, and you're going to see saving in Welding Tech. Make sure that folder is under my P drive. That is correct. And then this is the title of it. Now, by doing this, it's going to give me this little pop-up that says that already exists. Do you want to replace it? I'm going to say yes, because I have that is the current version that I like the best. Okay, and that's it. We're basically done at this point. I will be able to see these in your P drive to grade them and give you some points for them, and then we'll utilize the stuff we learned today to continue on and keep making more and more parts. All right, thanks guys.